Greetings, students. Today we're going to discuss practice test 1-2. Let's begin. Question 1, pattern. So we're looking at a pattern here. We're looking at 128, 64, 32, 16, and 8. So I can try subtraction first if I want. And I would say, well, I'm subtracting 64, then subtracting 32, then subtracting 16, then subtracting 8. So the next number I'd subtract would be half of 8, which would be 4. So I can describe the pattern that way, or I can say I'm dividing. Half of 128 is 64, half of 64 is 32, half of 16 is 8, half of 8 is going to be the answer. So division by 2 would be a proper way to describe this, or subtracting half of the amount from the number before, subtracting half of the number off. So subtracting half of 128, subtracting half of 64, subtracting half of 32. Next item. So our first number is 2 1/10, then 4 5/10, 6 9/10, 9 3/10, and 11 7/10. I'm going to look for an addition pattern first, because that would be the easiest to describe it. So to get from 2 1/10 to 4 5/10, well, I'd add a 2 to the 2 and a 4 to the 1, so plus 2.4. To get from 4 to 6, I'd add a 2 to that, and I'd add a 4 to the 9. So it looks like I'm adding 2 and 4/10 each time. 2.4 each time, adding 2 and 4/10. So 11 7/10 plus 2 and 4/10 makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 and 1/10. And then 14 and 1/10 plus 2 and 4/10 makes 16 and 5/10. Because we got the 4 plus 1 is 5, and the 2 plus 14 is 16. Take your time on this. You don't have to go quick with these patterns. All right, next item. Describe the pattern for the next term. These are the fractional patterns. So I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the numerator denominator. I'm saying, well, in the top here, it looks like it's 3, 6, 12, 7, 9, 11. So on the top here, it looks like it's timesing by 2 in the numerator, because 3 is doubled to become 6, 6 is doubled to become 12, 12 will double to become 24. Whereas the denominator looks like it's adding by 2, 7, 9, 11, 13 would be a proper way to describe that one. All right, question 4. What is a counterexample of the statement the sum of 0 and any integer is positive? The key word here is any integer. Integers can be positive as well as negative. So when we add a negative integer with 0, we get a negative number. So 0 plus a negative number or a negative integer will be a negative answer, even though they're added together. The sum of 0 and any integer is positive. Well, here's an integer, negative 6. When we add it to 0, we get negative 6. Find the length from V to T. So the length from V to U is 11. The length from W to T is 16. And the length from W to U is 12. So what is the length from W to V? Because that's what we need to subtract off from the length from W to T. So in other words, VT is equal to the whole length, WT, minus the shortest length, WV. So WT, the whole length, is labeled underneath as 16. This little short length on the left, that's why I gave you the 12 and the 11. 12 is from W to U. 11 is from V to U. All right, so that is 1. WV is 1 in length. 16 minus 1 is 15. Next one, angle sum or angle addition postulate. Measurement of angle UBA. So this top angle, just this little one here, if CBA is 97 and CBU is 32, so CBA is the whole angle, and CBU is the small portion underneath the whole angle there. So this will be an answer of 65. So again, when you're looking at this question, you have to decide whether to subtract or add the given angles. CBA is the entire angle. So in other words, the measurement of angle CBA is equal to the two smaller angles, added together. Measurement of angle CBU plus the measurement of angle UBA. Notice these all have B as the vertex because B is in the middle here of each of these three angles. They all share B as the vertex. All right, next items. Question 7, question 8. Find the length from T to U. All right, so the entire length is 15 of this segment. So I will take each of these added together and we'll set equal to 15. So x plus 13 plus x plus 17, that's a 17 there, plus 2x plus 21 equals 15. So I've got 1, 2, 4 x's plus 13, 30, 51 is equal in value to 15 in length. So taking 51 from 15 here, 4x will be equal in value. That's going to be a negative value because 51 has a larger absolute value than 15. So that's not going to be 36, that's going to be negative 36. So x here is equal to negative 9. In other words, to finish my question now, I'll put that x back in. RS would equal negative 9 plus 13. The length of RS, negative 9 plus 13 would be 4. ST would be negative 9 plus 17, which would be 8. And TU would be negative 18 plus 21, or 3. I asked you only for the length of TU. I did find all three lengths to check my work. So this way I can check my work and make sure that it adds up to 15 like it should. 4, 12, 15 total. The length is 15 total. I've seen students in the past miss this question because they have not got the negative portion right if it's negative, or because they've misinterpreted putting the x back in. So put the x back in, check your work. You got plenty of time for the test. There's no need to rush. All right, next one, measurement of HIJ. HIJ is the entire angle, is 109. The measurement of AIJ is the smaller portion. So I'm going to subtract these two. 109 minus 50 degrees is equal to 59 degrees. In other words, this is the same concept as question 6, just written slightly differently. The questions are the same, just written slightly differently. So the measurement of, in this case, HIJ is equal to the measurement of HIA plus the measurement of AIJ. The two smaller angles make the entire angle. Sketch the opposite rays, XB and XQ. So X is what they share, that's in the middle. One of them proceeds by pointing towards W in any direction. So it can point backwards, to the left up, to the left down, to the right up, to the right down, any directions. So I will put XW pointing any direction. There's XW. Now because they're opposite, they form a line. So Q now, because I've decided I'm going this direction, towards the top right, Q will be pointing towards the bottom left. Q. So this is line QXW, or WXQ. Opposite rays always form a line. So when we ask for opposite rays, we are asking for you to draw a line, a single line. Draw two planes that intersect. This is a corner of a room, or you can think of it as a corner of a box. So if I take my Kleenex box, which I have right here, this would be like trying to draw one of the edges here along my Kleenex box. Let's do a better edge. This edge, like right here. I'm trying to draw this because this is the top and the left side of the box intersecting. The top and the left side of the box. The intersection is this edge. So that's what I'm trying to draw. Two planes that intersect. So I can draw it with one plane vertical, for example, like this, and then one plane coming off to the side this way, or towards the back, or towards the left. I can draw it pretty much any direction I want to. I'll choose to draw it at an angle, just because I like it to look pretty. I think it looks prettier. It does say to label the intersection. So this is intersection AB. And then my planes, I'll label plane P. And I'll pick a letter for this one, maybe plane Q. P and Q are my planes. And if you want to be, super tricky, you can say this is plane F and plane R, the front right of the box. If you want to be tricky, because that's what you're trying to draw, a corner on the box. Maybe the top left to the top right, the front left to the front right, something like that. Anyhow, so this test has 20 questions. So these are worth, I make these worth 5 points each on the front. Each question is going to be worth the same amount for me. Your teacher might be different if you're listening to this from another class, but if you're in my class, it'll be 5 points each. All right. Next question. What does it say here? Choose the wrong name, not the right name, because 3 of these are correctly labeled. 1 of these is wrong, incorrect name. Choose the wrong name for this angle. Well, 3 is what it's labeled as, so 3, yeah. M is also in the middle, so yeah, M. So angle L versus angle NML. Well, angle L is not the middle of this angle, not the vertex. So angle L is not what it's called. It's not the vertex. It's called angle M, NML. So you can include the legs of the angle with the middle, with the vertex, or you can exclude them when you name the angle. In this case, we can call it angle M, NML, angle 3, or LMN. Angle L is not appropriate because it is not the vertex, not the middle. It does not contain the middle of the angle, in other words. Next question. Find the measurement of the angle to the nearest degree. So I do have the protractors that I'll hand out during the tests. But when you're looking at this angle, just by looking at it, you can get a good estimate, just visually looking at it, that it is greater than 90. I seem to misplace my protractor up front here. I'm going to grab my protractor for a second here just so I can get the exact measurement better for you. Hang on. Sorry about that. So we line up the circle at the angle's vertex. So the angle's vertex is right there. The circle lines up. The line follows the edge of the angle. And then we look at where it points. So it points towards this 35 as well as the 145. 145 would be if this angle was obtuse, but this angle is not obtuse, it's the acute angle. So it's the 35 measurement. Again, this always points towards 2 measurements. You pick the appropriate one based on where it's located. This is 35, not 145, because this is acute, not obtuse. 35. And if you look at all the angles here that are listed, these are all obtuse, and this one's the only one that's acute. So that is actually kind of an easy question to go through. You don't even need the protractor to measure it. I just wanted to show you how to measure it with a protractor again. All right, find the distance. So here I'm looking at change in x, change in y, square rooted. Distance is equal to the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 quantity squared. So the x's here, or you can go with the y's or the x's first. Let's go with the y's first. With the y's, they're from -1, and they go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a change in y of 5. So my change in y is 5. And it's down 5 or up 5. It's going to be squared anyways, so it's not particular with the distance formula which way you go. So if I want to call this my first and my second point, if I'm looking left to right, which is what you should do, this should be actually a -5 because it goes from here down to here. So -5 squared. which is going to be 25. And then the x's here, they go right by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's positive 4 because it starts here and it goes to here from negative 3 to positive 1. So plus 4 squared. 25 and 16 is 41 when they add together. So my answer is the square root of 41 for my answer. And again, you're just looking at changing y plus changing x squared. So you can actually just do the picture here, and you can say 4 squared plus 5 squared. This is 41. Just from the picture, 4 squared plus 5 squared is 41, and it is the Pythagorean theorem. This length plus this length is equal to that length squared. All right, plots the points on a number line. Which segments are congruent? So here I will have it drawn for you on the test, the number line. You don't have to plot them yourself, but we're going to plot them together here. So there's negative 10, 9, 8, 7. So this was point D. Negative 10 is that point D. This was point F. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's 0. There's 1. That's point E. 2, 3, 4. That's point G. D, E, F, and G. Which segments are congruent? Well, D to F is 3, and so is E to G. D, F is congruent to E, G. Not D, G. Now, there might be some other segments that are congruent here as well, so I should probably check that as well. So would GF also be congruent to DE on this particular length? Well, yeah, because they share FE and because DF is equal to EG. So we'd also have DE congruent to FG as well on this particular one, because they both share FE and that DF is equal to EG. Anyways, next thing, factoring. I use the x factoring one. If your teacher does something different, just you use what makes best sense to you. So here I've got a goal of negative 15, and a times c is 50. 1 times 50 is 50. So I'm breaking down the 50 to make 15. Well, to make 15 from 50, it's going to have to be 10 and 5. Negative 10, negative 5, because they multiply that positive 15, they add to make negative 15. Because a is 1, my factor here is n plus or n minus 10, n plus negative 10 or n minus 10. And then the other factor is n minus 5, because 5 over 1, negative 10 over 1. Neither of those reduces. Next one, my goal number is a negative 10, my value b, and then my a times c is negative 24. 3 by negative 8, negative 24. So to make that negative 10, I'm going to have to go with 12 and 2. Negative 12, positive 2, because negative 12 times 2 is negative 24. And then negative 12 plus 2 is negative 10x. So with this one, negative 12 does divide by 3 evenly, and it makes a negative 4. So that means it's x minus 4, one of my factors. That's negative 4 over 1. But 2 doesn't divide by 3, so that's 3x plus 2. Another factor. That's my approach to factoring. Again, you're welcome to use any approach you want, as long as it's effective, as long as you can do it. All right, so 245, I'm looking at this right away, and I'm knowing it's dividing by 5, because it ends in a 5. So I'm going to try to take 5 into it. I'm going to see how many times 5 goes into 245. Well, it goes in 49 times. That was pretty convenient. Now, I wasn't necessarily looking for the 5 here. I was looking for the 49, because the 49 becomes what? It becomes a 7. It's a perfect root. 7 root 5. Now, the 200 here, I know that divides by 10, because it ends in a 0. It also divides by 100. And that 100 is pretty nice, because that 100 becomes a 10. So my answer is 10 times the square root of 2. Anytime a number ends in a pair of zeros, you can divide it by 100. And if it's a square root, that means you can pull a 10 out in front. So the square root of 200 is 100 times 2, which is 10 root 2. The square root of 300 would be 300 times, or 100 times 3. then root 3. Square root of 500 would be 500, or 100 times 5, which would be 10 root 5. Now, there's some tricky ones because if you do the square root of 400, would be 100 times 4. But that 4 also roots evenly and becomes a 2. The square root of 400 is actually 10 times 2, 20. It's an even root. Anyhow, moving along. 6x plus 9x on this next one is 6x plus 3x is 9x on this next one. 1 to 17 makes 18. And 18 divided by 9 is 2. Answer 2. Next one, distribution. 18a minus 9 plus 4a is equal to negative 163. I distributed, got 18 from 3 by 6. Got 9 from negative 3 times 3. 18 plus 2 plus 4a is 22a. 9 to 163 is 172. 172. No, they're opposite signs. So they're going to subtract. Negative 156. 56. 54. There we go. And then that 154 divides evenly 7 times. These should divide evenly for the most part on most of our tests. There'll be a few where they don't. Again, these are 5 points each. So good luck on the test. I'll be here probably Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning if you want to come in the morning and talk about it again. And also Friday morning. And yeah, good luck.